This is how short rows work. In order to get this ruffle on each side, you're building knitwear on one side, and then you're working across so you can build the knitwear on the other side. So this pattern is 20 stitches. And how the pattern reads is, it says to you, knit 8. So you come through here and you knit 8. And then it says knit 8 back. So you actually turn midpoint, and you always have to remember that you have to put your thread behind your right needle because you're knitting, and then you knit these 8 stitches back. This is short rowing. And then when you come back, the pattern will say knit 6. So you come back and then you knit 6. And once again it says to knit 6 back. So you turn it and you get your thread back in its position, and then you knit the 6 back. And then the pattern reads knit 4. So you are doing the same thing. And then it's going to turn it again and knit those 4 stitches back. So before I go to the next section of the pattern, I want you to see what happens, because you're causing a division here. Even if you answer the telephone and you're wondering where you were, do you see how these 4 have been completed? And then there's a separation in 2 and a separation in 2, because this is where the 8 were, this is where the 6 point was, and now the 4. But as you can see, if you look at this way, you see how you've been, from this section, you're just knitting back and forth here. So that's what's creating this fabric. It's called short rows. And then the pattern says knit 20. So now this is when you get everything back in alignment and you are knitting the 20 stitches completely across the needle, making everything unison again. So what you have just done is you have done the short rowing on the right hand side of this garment, which is formulating a ruffle. So now what happens is you have to keep it even, so you have to do the other side. So you just repeat the pattern. And you can see in the beginning as it starts, because normally you would have a piece that would be flat like this, but you see what happened? Because the short rowing is done, and then you knit across and you get to the other side and you're doing the short row again. So you're building fabric because you're only working back and forth on 8 stitches, then 6 stitches, then 4 stitches. And as you work it up, you get this beautiful twisted, ruffled effect. Now this is done in a cotton, and I had worked up another sample piece which I had just showed you here, and I had done this with an alpaca, and I blended it with a very fine wool, and I worked the 2 threads together, and as you can see, you really get a beautiful curled effect. Now that you know that you have done the short rows on this side, keeping in with pattern, now you begin your cast off on only half of it. So you want to get, and you want to start casting off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now you're going back and you have to knit this row across, because that's what you would normally be doing if you had worked the pattern in short rows, because you're always knitting the 20 across. And then when you come to this side, you have to work, because see, you've got this already developed. So now you have to work the short row patterns again in the pattern on just half of it. And then back again, turn it around. Your 8 stitches back. So, lesson of the day. If you're going to end this, you would cast it completely off. But if you're going to make a tie, like I showed you, then there are your 4 center stitches. There are your 4 stitches that you would work now if you were going to work the tie back and forth. Otherwise, you would cast those 4 off, because then you're left with your 4 stitches. Okay, and there's your end.
I'll be back.